Hi, Morty. How are you today?
Great vision. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this conversation.
Well, Morty, I explained to the audience already in a pre-call video on what you're going to be talking about. And it is incredibly exciting to us because everyone here who's listening right now is fascinated by the idea of beliefs and how to model beliefs and how to disrupt and remove dysfunctional beliefs. And one thing that's really unique about you is that you are a master in this. I mean, the Lefko belief process is one of the most fascinating belief hacking systems I've ever come across. But before we get
Thank you.
down to the nitty gritty, I'd love to ask you a question I ask every guest I bring on. And that question is
Sure.
simply, what gets you out of bed every morning, Morty? Like, what drives you? What are you passionate about?
Um, I'm passionate about relieving suffering and having people create new opportunities. Basically, we've developed a series of processes, which I call the Lefko method, which we're going to be talking about several of them today, but they can make a profound difference in the quality of people's lives. Some of the processes literally can stop suffering. You can stop negative feelings. And most people have those all day long. And people are stuck trying to achieve what they want in life, be it a good relationship, more money, success, whatever, and they're stopped. They just can't find a way to do it. And it's possible to be able to create new possibilities relatively easily. So basically, I just take a look at the state of the world and say it's just nothing more than one big opportunity. There's just more and more I can do. So every day I'm tired. I don't feel like getting out of bed. It's there's something more I can do today. I can create something new or make what I've already got available to more people. And that's why I'm almost 78 and I'm showing those signs of stopping. And I can't imagine really ever stopping.
No kidding. And I've known you for about 5 years now. I've met your wife, I've met your daughter, and I noticed like an unshakable confidence about your entire family. I really respect that.
Thank
Tell
you.
us, tell us about the Lefko belief process and the basic idea behind it. And we'd love to know how we could apply some of these tools in our lives.
Good. Some of this may be a little basic, and if it is, I apologize, but I want to make sure that the foundation is really clear. Uh, 25, 30 years ago, I actually started this 30 years ago. Nobody talked about beliefs. Nobody talked about they were important or how to get rid of them or why they were relevant. Uh, but in the last 20 years, I think Deepak Chopra talked about them a lot. And at some point, almost everybody in personal growth now talks about, oh, you can't really make a permanent change in your life without changing your beliefs. A lot of people talk about it. But what do we really mean? Why do beliefs have the power they do? They do because the belief is what we think is true about reality. So basically, it's nothing more than what we feel is the way reality is. So if we have a belief I'm not good enough, that's a fact. I mean, you're sitting in a chair right now, you got headphones on, you're talking to me, and you're not good enough. I mean, that's just a fact. I don't know if you have that belief, but whatever it is. Or if you have the belief life's difficult, that's the way the world is. I mean, this table's hard and life's difficult. So our beliefs have the effect they do because they're part of reality for us. They're the way reality is. Whatever we say, men can't be trusted, women are hard to get along with, relationships don't work. That is the way life is. And outside of an institution, most people act consistently with the way they see reality most of the time. So if you think there's something wrong with you or reality, that's going to affect the way you operate. So that's the basic. Number one is our beliefs pretty much determine what we do, what we don't do, what we feel, and what we don't feel. So I was stuck 30 years ago, and I think a lot of people in the personal growth field got started because of their own issues. And they were trying to improve their own life in some way, get rid of their own suffering. And they came up with something that seemed to help. And, they then found it to help them, so they make it available to others. So I was stuck. I was depressed most of the time. I had been to two divorces. I was unhappy. I was making a living, but not doing that well. And I tried therapy and courses, and nothing seemed to change anything. And one day I was on a plane ride. I actually tell us in the book that I wrote, Recreate Your Life, from New York to Los Angeles. And I sat down and started journaling. I just started writing and saying, what the hell's wrong with my life? Why is it so difficult? Why is it not turning out? Why do I struggle so hard? And I just never get what I want. And I started realizing, I'm actually proud of the fact that I never give up. No matter how hard the struggle was, no matter what the obstacles were, I just kept on going. And I said, that's great. My friends admire me for that. They think that's one of my best qualities too. And then I had this insight, that's really what makes me a really good person. I mean, I think I'm important and worthwhile because I never give up. Because no matter what the obstacle, I keep going. And it suddenly hit me from out of nowhere. It's so obvious once you say it, but I never saw it. If I think that my sense of self-worth is based on overcoming obstacles, what would I need a lot of in my life to have a sense of self-worth? Not success, obstacles. So I realized I needed to keep seeing obstacles, creating obstacles, have something that I could keep overcoming and not let stop me in order to really feel good about myself. So I kept writing and writing. And basically, to make a long story short, unconsciously, I sort of downloaded somehow the steps of a process that would permanently eliminate beliefs. I didn't know I had done that, but later on, I made a presentation. It came back. Things started getting better and better. And I realized that buried in 5 hours worth of notes were 7 or 8 questions, which if you asked the question and the other person answered, or if you asked them to yourself, beliefs that you would live with for a lifetime would be gone permanently. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know why it worked. It took me actually a couple of years to figure it out. But I finally did. And when I did, I was able to improve it. I was able to consciously edit it, add to it, subtract. And I ended up with a process that we've now done with 14,000 people live, one-on-one, and about 150,000 people have used an interactive free website that we have where people can do it. But basically, it is now possible to take almost any issue you have, whether it's procrastination or fear of public speaking, and any emotional thing, anxiety, anger, or any problem like, as I say, eating disorders, procrastination, any behavioral issue. Find the beliefs that cause those particular problems, eliminate those beliefs, and the problems go away. We've done that now literally over 10,000 times. So that's basically the background.
That sounds incredible, Morty. Absolutely incredible. 14,000 students. Now you're saying that if we ask ourselves these simple questions, it helps us understand our beliefs, get a realization, and thus shed the belief. Am I correct?
Yes.
Wonderful. How can we get started?
Well, I can explain it to you so that you'll understand it, but understanding is not the same as doing it. You actually have to do the process, and it's not really a group process. It's not something I've tried to do with an entire audience or a group. But I can give you a link to a website where there are 3 interactive processes on 3 of the most common beliefs. I'm not good enough, I'm not important, and mistakes and failure are bad, where you can actually go try it. But let me quickly give you a sense of how this, when you understand how beliefs are formed and why we believe what we believe and why they're usually hard to get rid of, then you can understand why you can get rid of them pretty easily, very, very quickly. So let's just play with this for a minute. So let's assume you've got the belief, which is one of the most common beliefs, I'm not good enough. And then I go back and say, well, where'd that come from? You weren't born with it. What happened early in your life? And if you're typical, you'd say, well, mom and dad loved me and they were wonderful, but when I didn't do what they wanted me to do, I didn't live up to expectations, they'd get annoyed, they'd get frustrated, they'd say things, how many times do I have to tell you and can't you ever learn? Sound familiar? Yeah. So that's the way it is with, as I say, we're not talking about terrible parents. We're talking about parents who love, but have never been to parenting school and who bring their own beliefs with them. So basically, most parents, when you don't live up to their expectations, and parents generally have unrealistic expectations of young kids, they get annoyed, they get frustrated, they get angry. Now, you've got a little 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old who, according to Piaget, given your stage of development, you're very egocentric. You only have one point of view. You don't understand that anybody else can see anything in a different way from a different point of view. So if mom and dad are dissatisfied with you time after time, it's got to be you. Can't be them. You can't understand that they have their own point of view, that they're annoyed, that they're busy, that they don't know better, that they love you, but they don't know how to explain things. All you know is me. So if they're annoyed, got to be me. So what could explain the fact that over and over again, I'm not living up to their expectations and they're annoyed, frustrated, and angry? Guess I'm not good enough. Something wrong with me. Now, that's a reasonable interpretation for a 4 or 5-year-old kid. That's not a mistake. That's not stupid. That's what 99% of all young children would say to mom and dad being annoyed and frustrated. So we give it the meaning, basically that I'm not good enough or something like that. There's something wrong with me, etc. So now we got a belief. Now here's what happens. When we give meaning to a series of events that don't have any inherent meaning, what does it really mean that mom and dad are critical? It could mean you're not good enough. It could mean mom and dad think so, but they're wrong. It could mean mom and dad have unrealistic expectations. That's why they're dissatisfied. Could mean I'm not good at some things, but doesn't mean I'm not a good enough person. Could even mean I wasn't good enough as a kid. Doesn't mean that that would always be true. I wasn't good enough in my household. Doesn't mean I'd have not been good enough in somebody else's household. So you,
Could also mean that mom and dad were highly stressed or going through a tumultuous time in their lives and thus snapped at the child.
absolutely. So basically, what you do is you get the client to realize, the student, whatever, to realize that the meaning you gave was one logical possibility, the one that most children would give, but that there's 10 other ones. So if there's 10 other ones that are just as valid, can you start to see that the meaning you gave isn't the truth? It's just one possibility.
Right.
Now the next step is the most crucial one. If you actually ask somebody to do this, again, when we speak abstractly, it may or may not be real. But if you ask somebody who's got a belief and you say, go back to the source of it, go back and be a little kid, be a 4-year-old, imagine mom and dad being critical. So any of the audience that wants to play with this right now, who remembers forming I'm not good enough, or there's some belief like that when mom and dad were critical. Imagine being a 4-year-old. Imagine not doing what mom wanted. Imagine mom and dad yelling or being annoyed or withdrawing or whatever they did. Doesn't it seem as if you can almost see I'm not good enough? And for visual people, which is 85% of the world, the answer is, well, of course I saw it. I mean, if you were there seeing the way mom and dad treated me, you'd have seen I'm not good enough too. And then my next question is, if you can really see I'm not good enough, tell me what it looks like. And they said, well, I could see I was 4 years old and mom and dad were bigger and they were working. No. That's the event. I want to know what I'm not good enough looks like. And it suddenly dawns on them, I can't see it. So I said, then where is it? It's in my mind. So you've lived your whole life as if you could see I'm not good enough. And now you're realizing you never did see it. It was only in your mind. What does mom and dad's behavior really mean? Could mean a lot of things. It doesn't have an inherent meaning. Now, this is only an assertion, but it's happened hundreds of thousands of times. The belief is gone for good. Now, why is it that beliefs usually don't go away with years of therapy or most of the other techniques? Because you think you saw it as a child repeatedly. So logically telling you, look at what you've achieved. Look how much money you're worth. Look how many people you help. Look at your life. Look at your relationship. How could you logically believe I'm not good enough? You're right, Morty. I shouldn't believe it. But deep down, there's the sense, but I saw that I wasn't good enough 10, 50, 100 times as a kid. And once you've seen somebody, nobody's ever going to logically tell you you didn't see what you saw. That make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
basically, let me just finish the sentence and then we can talk about it. So the basic thing is we hold on to these beliefs regardless of what techniques we use to get rid of them, because they go away for a while, but then they come back. They feel better for a minute. They come back. Nothing works at all because we think we saw it as a child. So when you go back to the event and say, yes, I could see it. Then when I say, tell me what it looks like, and they can't, they realize they didn't see it. And what they did see has no meaning. So the only place the meaning has ever been is not in the world, but in their mind. And the instant they get that, the belief is no longer a belief and it never comes back. And I've got 30 years of experience showing with literally 14,000 people that when beliefs go away, they don't come back.
Wow, that's remarkable. I've as you were talking, I began to visually remember and see moments in my childhood that helped me create some of my most messed up beliefs. When I was a teenager, Morty, I believed I was ugly. I believed I was ugly and I was hideous. And as a result, my entire teenage life, I never had a girlfriend. I never even had friends. In my entire teenage life, from 13 to 18, I only went out socially 5 times. That was less than once a year. I had no friends. And when I think back to why I had that, it was because I went to a school before I was 12, I went to a school where I was the only person of Indian origin. And I experienced a lot of racism and people telling me, I remember I sometimes cry when I remember it. I remember being on a school bus and holding the rails of the school bus, and another kid of the dominant race, whatever that was, touching my
Mhm.
hand, pulling it away and going, ugh. And I remember when I was a teenager breaking out in a bad case of acne, standing in line in the cafeteria to get food, and other kids moving away from me, calling me pimple boy. So that affected me so badly that I remember crying in bed at night, wishing I could change my face. And it really affected me. I even when I moved to America, when I went to college in Michigan, I never dared ask a girl out. In my entire college life, I'd not been on a single date until I met my wife. So totally resonate with that. Now,
Mhm.
and I know there's a lot of people listening as well who have had similar beliefs really hold them back. What would be the process? How would you help someone like me who's gone through that overcome those beliefs?
Basically, what I just said is find the belief, as you just did, I'm ugly, and go back to where it came from. I didn't look like other kids, and I was rejected, I wasn't accepted, and I was ostracized, and people made fun of me. Well, that's a reasonable interpretation for a young boy to make. That's fine. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't make a mistake. But can you see that that's one possibility?
Right.
So, what are two other possible meanings for the fact that you didn't look like others, you were darker skinned, and people generally ostracized you? That's a fact. What could that mean other than I'm ugly?
It could mean that the other people around me were not used to a pluralistic society and people of different ethnicities.
But can you see that that explains every single thing
Right.
that happened to you just as well as it was me that I'm ugly?
Yeah.
Good. Do one more. Give me one more. What else could it mean?
It could mean that the kids around me who, in that cafeteria, who moved away from me in the lunch line, because I had horrible pimples on my face that particular day, were just mean. And they were just being kids. We were 14, maybe 15.
Yes. It has nothing to do with you being ugly. This, kids just pick on anything.
Right,
It could even be maybe I was ugly that day. Doesn't mean I'm an ugly
right.
person. I just looked ugly with the pimples, but doesn't mean I'm an ugly person, etc. So can you see that your interpretation, when you said I'm ugly, that wasn't a stupid thing to say. That was trying to make sense of what was going on around you. But there's other interpretations, there's other statements, there's other beliefs that explain what happened just as well, right?
Right.
Good. Now here's the next step. So go back, close your eyes if you want to open, but go back and
Hmm.
imagine that event. Imagine either the event in the cafeteria or just in general. Just sort of flash by as you were a kid between 12 and 18, and just imagine the kids ostracizing you, not wanting to talk to you, getting in groups and leaving you out. Just remember that.
Hmm.
Doesn't it seem as if you can see I'm ugly?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right there in front of you. Like if I were there, you'd say, Morty, take a look at the way I'm being treated. Can't you see I'm ugly? That's how real it is, right?
Right.
It's clear, perfectly clear. Good. If you can see it, tell me what it looks like. Because anything you can physically see has a color, a shape, and a location. Anything at all in the world, if you can see it, has a color, shape, location. Tell me what I'm ugly looks like. You just said you can see it. Look
It
real carefully and describe it.
Well, I can remember a particular scene from the time I was 13 years
That's
old.
fine. Good. Tell me what, look at anything you want and tell me what I'm ugly looks like.
I was in the cafeteria. The teacher was
Yeah.
announcing that there's going to be a school play,
Yeah.
and they wanted someone to play the lead character, which was Tarzan. And I
Got it.
raised my hand and I said, I'd love to be Tarzan.
Mm,
And everyone else in that cafeteria started laughing
got it.
because they didn't believe, they thought I was the most unlikely person to be put on stage.
Got it. I got that. That's very real. If I mean, I can imagine you videotaped it and I can see that, but I still can't see I'm ugly because what happened could mean what you just said. It just could mean that you were different. You were darker skinned. You didn't look like them, so they couldn't imagine it. They could just, they didn't understand multiculturalism, or you were darker than everybody else, or your voice, your accent was different than everybody else. So you were not like other people. That
You're right.
explains why they thought you were
Hmm.
not likely candidate. I want to know what I'm ugly looks like. You just keep telling me what events look like. I got the
Right.
events. There are 100 of events like that. But what does I'm ugly look like? You just said I could see I'm ugly.
You're right. I can't see it. I can't. When you ask me that, the only thing that comes back to mind is me lying in my bed, thinking about how I wish I looked different.
Yeah, I got it. Well,
But I can't see it. You're right. I cannot see it.
yeah. But that thought came from having the belief. Once you form the belief I'm
Right.
ugly, then you wish you weren't ugly anymore. I mean, if only I weren't ugly, I'd have friends and I'd be happy
Right.
instead of miserable. But you had formed the belief I'm ugly. So you said you could see it, and you held on to that your whole life because I saw it. Something you can see. I mean, if I tell you tomorrow that you didn't have this interview with me, I'll give you $1 million if you don't have this interview with me.
Hmm.
I'll give you anything you'll say. I'll make it up. I'll pretend I didn't have the interview, but I was there. I saw it. And there's nothing that will ever happen that will make you think you didn't have this interview with me today. So once you say, I can see I'm ugly, that's never going to go away because it didn't happen once. It happened many times.
Right.
Now, if you go back and you say, can you see it? Did you ever really see it?
No.
No. What did you see? Events where people shunned you, made fun of you, excluded you.
Because I was different.
You don't know that it's different. It
Right.
could be for any reason in the world. It could be that kids make fun of anybody with anything.
Right.
They don't necessarily make fun of Indian origin or darker skinned people or people with an accent. They'll find anything at all. I mean, anybody who anybody who does anything at all a little bit different, kids can be mean at that particular
Right.
age. They wouldn't do that at 18, but they do that at 8 or 10 or 12.
Right.
So you don't know what they did or why they did it. All you know is I was ostracized.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you now know for sure that when you were between the age of 12 and 18, you were ostracized by most people in that school? What do you now know about your looks for sure?
Right. Right. So
So
I
it's a
know.
question.
Yeah. So
What
I
do you
know.
know for sure?
I know for sure that I'm not ugly. I
No,
know.
you don't know for sure you're not. Maybe you are, but you don't know from the behavior
Right.
of 15 or 20 or 30 kids at one particular school between the age of 12 and 15 or 18. Those events, here's the important, those events have no meaning. Do I know anything for sure about you as a human being? Forget you and me. I'm now going to tell Shelley
Hmm.
exactly what happened to you as a child. Describe 20 of those events and then say, Shelley, what do you know about Vishen's looks? And what will she say? Here's how people treated him. Here's
Hmm.
what people said. Here's what people did. One particular school, particular age. Do you know anything about what Vishen looks like as a human being? And
You're
what's she
right.
going to have to?
You're right.
What's she going to say?
No.
She has no idea.
Yeah.
He could be ugly. He could be handsome. But from the behavior of 20, 30, 14, 15-year-old kids at one school at one particular time, I don't know anything for sure.
Right.
So you never saw it in the world. And what you did see in the world has no meaning. So where was I'm ugly since you're 12 years old?
It was
Where
all.
was?
What you're trying to get at is was all in my head.
That's right.
Right.
You've lived your life as if you discovered it in the world. And what you now realize, I didn't discover it in the world because it was never out there to be discovered.
I
I
see.
put the meaning there. I didn't see the meaning out there. I didn't discover it. I put meaning in my head and I put it there. I attributed I'm ugly to those events. I didn't discover something in the world. All I saw in the world was events that have no inherent meaning.
Right. Right. I see I completely see what you're saying, and I see how events can completely transform how we believe about the world. If I can just finish that I'm ugly story, how I got out of it, because now I'm frequently on stage, I'm frequently on camera. How I got out of it was in my junior or senior year in college. I was at a dance, and I met this girl from Missouri. So we were dancing, and we had had a glass or so of wine, and so I'm getting really personal here. And I happened to kiss her. And after
Ooh.
kissing her, I pushed back and I said, I'm sorry. And she said, are you kidding me? You're hot. And she was the most beautiful woman in the room. She grabbed me, kissed me back, and stuff happened. And
Yes.
that completely made me realize that if the hottest girl in that particular event could tell me that I was hot, maybe I was. And that completely changed my life because of that one kiss and that one statement from that woman from Missouri.
Good. Good for you.
But I see what you're saying, and I hope for the audience that's listening, by me going through that vulnerable bit of my life, you could see how maybe what you believe about your life might also be the function of you giving meaning to events that you interpreted in a certain way. Morty, is there anything else you want to say about this process before we move on to the next segment?
Well, as I said, is based on working with all these thousands of people. We've discovered that hardly anybody escapes childhood without three beliefs. Parents just don't know any better. They have unreasonable expectations. They don't go to parenting school. They bring their own beliefs with them from their childhood. So the three beliefs are: I'm not good enough, I'm not important, and mistakes and failure are bad. Now, before people say, oh, wait, I don't believe those things, I don't have those beliefs, let me just give one warning. It's possible to disagree with something you believe. So I'm not asking you intellectually, does that make sense to you? Do you agree with that statement? I'm asking if it feels true, the slightest bit. So on a scale of 1 to 100, it's 100, it's the truest thing in the world, and 1 is sort of barely, something, sort of. If you got a 1, it's there. So how strong the belief is has nothing to do with how much it affects you. It's like a computer; it's either on or off.
Right.
So with bits, there's either yes or no. And if it's yes, so I'm asking you to do this. So you can go to recreateyourlife.com, RECREATE, recreateyourlife.com, and there is a free interactive process where you can eliminate those 3 of the most common limiting negative beliefs, no charge, and you can actually walk through it and see what the experience is like.
Okay, so the first one is I'm not good enough. The second one is I'm not important. What was the third one?
Mistakes and failure are bad.
Mistakes and failure are bad. Interesting. So what you're saying is, see, because when I think about that, I know I don't agree with any of those. But what you're saying is, even if I don't agree, it doesn't mean I do not have the belief. I may be at anywhere between 1 to 100 still.
Yes.
And even if I'm at number 1, if I have 1% of that belief, it's impacting me in a certain way.
Yeah. Now, you may not have mistakes and failure bad, given that you're an entrepreneur and what you do. But what keeps people from trying new things, what keeps people from being an entrepreneur, from taking chances, people who've always wanted to write something, a book or an article or something, or start a business or something, what stops them is when they get started, it's, oh God, I might make a mistake. I could fail. And mistakes and failure are bad. So there are other beliefs involved too. But one of the main beliefs that stops people from taking action is the belief mistakes and failure are bad.
I see. Wow. So to recap on applying the Lefko belief process to your life, how do we first figure out what belief it is that we have to get rid of?
It's getting a little more complicated. It actually takes a while to figure out. We actually have training programs where we teach people how to do it, and it can take a while. But there's one technique, one trick I can give people that'll help a lot. I mean, if you don't want to take the time to be trained, but you want to do something, just before your problem, whatever it happens to be, procrastination, or you're afraid to take action, or you're about to be public speaking, and just before you get up to speak, there's fear. Just before the problem starts, the behavior, you're afraid to take the action, or you start having a negative feeling, look inside and ask yourself, what are the thoughts you're having? And the thoughts you're having will give you a clue as to what you believe. So if you stand up to speak, people with a fear of public speaking, they stand up to speak as, oh God, I'm going to screw up. What are people going to think? I could get into trouble. Nobody's going to like me. I'm going to look like a fool. So they're worried about making a mistake, about being rejected. What makes me good enough is having people think well of me. I'm not capable. So you could pretty much guess what many of the beliefs would be based upon the thoughts you have at the moment the problem exists. As I say, that's to really answer your question would take me 7 modules over 7 weeks. Because it's actually something you can learn to do, but it's sort of not obvious. There's a whole bunch of techniques on how to do that. But when you find all the beliefs that cause a given problem, and unlearn the belief the way I've just explained, the problem disappears. We've helped about 4,000 people with the fear of public speaking who don't have any anymore.
Got it.
So it's not that it gets better. See, when you get rid of the belief, a lot of people, personal growth and otherwise, and therapists, want to improve your situation. So if you have fear on a scale of 1 to 10 of 10, and you get it down to 6 or 7, hey, that's not bad. I mean, I'd be very happy to get that. But if it's caused by beliefs and you get rid of all the beliefs, it's not going to go down to 6 or 7. It's going to disappear. So if you find and get rid of the beliefs, the procrastination stops. The fear of public speaking stops. Whatever it happens to be, the eating disorder stops. So basically, you can totally get rid of problems, whatever they happen to be, when you identify and eliminate, unlearn all the relevant beliefs.
I see. I see. I like that. I like that idea. Look at the thoughts going into your head when you get on anything where you feel some sort of negative charge or fear.
And the beliefs will produce those thoughts. So you can work backwards. If you believed I'm capable, I'm competent, it's going to turn out, I can't wait to do it, as you probably feel when you speak, I mean, you probably enjoy it, you wouldn't possibly have the thought, oh God, I'm going to fail, and what are people going to think, and I don't really know what I'm doing, etc. So the only way you could have those kind of thoughts is to have beliefs that are consistent. So the way to find the beliefs is work backwards from the thoughts.
Work backwards from the thoughts. Try to remember those moments in your childhood where you may have experienced something.
And then you go, once you find the beliefs, then say, I wasn't born with it. What are the earliest events when I started having that thought? And you'll start finding events. And 99% of the time, our self-esteem beliefs come from interactions with mom and dad. We can have beliefs about business from our first business experience, about women or men from our first dating experience. So we have beliefs for our whole life. You have beliefs about how to run a company, how to improve people's lives. You didn't have those as a kid. You got those later in life. But our self-esteem beliefs, our sense of self-worth, our sense of being able to deal with the world, 99% of those come from interactions with parents during the first 6, 7 years of our life.
So let me ask you a different question. As a parent myself of 2 kids, and many people listening, about half of them are going to be parents of people under 18, is there anything we can practice or do to make sure we don't mess up our children?
That's another whole topic, and I'm happy to answer it. I'll try to keep it brief and still relevant. Given what I've just said, what's the primary job of a parent? Make sure that your kids form positive and not negative beliefs. What's going to have the biggest impact on them? Not what they do right then, not what they learn, because you could be smart as hell, and if you believe I'm not good enough and life's difficult, I'll never get what I want, your smarts are not going to help you be very happy or successful. So it's your beliefs that ultimately are going to have the biggest impact on how well your life turns out, the quality of your life. So the main job of a parent is help your children form positive rather than negative beliefs. Number one. So that's the first question. And then the next question is, we could talk for hours on things to do and not to do and principles, etc. But the overriding principle that sort of gives you a context is to ask yourself another question. At what cost? See, what we're trying to do as a child is get our kids to put their shoes on, to keep quiet, to put the things away, to not break things, to come when they're called, hundreds of things all day long. And we try to find ways of getting what we want, or getting kids to do what we think they ought to do. And the question we don't ask ourselves is, at what cost? Because there are a lot of things we can do to get our kids to do what we want them to do at the moment. And if they end up concluding I'm powerless, or there's something wrong with me, or I'll never get what I want, or life is difficult, was it worth it? My contention is it wasn't. So as I say, I could spend hours giving you all kinds of suggestions. Well, Shelley, you know Shelley, she's a parenting expert and has DVDs on this, CDs.
Shelley is your wife.
Yeah, Shelley's my wife, and she's that's actually one of her businesses, and has a course in all of this, and is doing another course, and she's got a lot of ebooks, et cetera, et cetera. But the two basic things you want to ask is my job is to help children to be careful of what is my child likely to conclude, not what I think, not my motives. I don't care what your motives are. It's what would a 5-year-old make of what I'm doing and saying.
Right.
And if it's something negative, ask yourself, at what cost am I going to get what I want today, knowing my child's going to end up with the belief, that's going to negatively affect the quality of their life for the rest of their life.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that reminds me of something I asked your wife. For those of you listening, I happened to meet Morty and his wonderful wife, Shelley, in Hawaii 2 months back. And Shelley and I got into a conversation on parenting. And Shelley said something so profound. I whipped out my iPhone and I filmed her just so I could record it. And what she said is, the most important advice I can give you as a parent is, whenever you do anything to your child, be very conscious of what you think they could be learning from it. If you scold them because they're not eating on time or they are late for school, ask yourself, what beliefs could my child be taking from what I just did to them? So last night I had a situation with my 7-year-old son. He was working on an iPad. He was using a tool called Keynote to build slides. And all of a sudden, I realized it was past his bedtime. It was 9:20. He's supposed to be in bed at 9. So I said, Hayden, put down the iPad. We got to go put you in bed immediately. And he immediately started crying. He's like, no, I have to finish this. And my first reaction was, no, you're going to wake up. You're going to be late for school. You're already 20 minutes late. You need to go to bed now. But then I remembered what your wife, what Shelley, told me. And I immediately realized, wait a minute. If I tell this to Hayden, he's going to feel a whole number of different beliefs along the line of, my dad doesn't care about the work I'm doing, to I'm powerless, to I need to listen to my dad because he's smarter than me. So instead, I turned to him and I said, Hayden, look, do you really want to spend an extra 10 minutes working on your project? And he goes, yes. And I said, and you do realize that this is going to make you a little bit sleepier when you wake up for school tomorrow morning? And he goes, yes. And I said, and you're okay with that? Because if you're okay with that, I want you to know that you're a big boy and I trust you and I think you're incredibly smart and you're mature enough to make certain decisions on your own. So you tell me when you want to go to sleep. And he said, okay, 10 minutes. And then he went back to his iPad. He continued playing. And 10 minutes later, he just went to bed by himself. But that advice from your wife changed something that I've been doing for 7 years. And I now do it in a very different way. I no longer boss my kids around.
I'm blown away. Congratulations. Oh, I'm so thrilled. You asked me the question when we started, why do I get out of bed in the morning? To hear things like that.
Thank you.
To know that we can say things like that to people that will change them and change their children and so on. That just makes me feel good. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that story.
That approach directly came from you and your wife. Now, here's another system I put in place that was inspired by my conversation with Shelley Lefko, who, for those of you who don't know Morty, is Morty's wife. So every night before I put my son to bed, we lie in bed and we would do a gratitude exercise. So I'd ask him, what are you grateful for today? And he'd talk about something in school or something that we did together. But after talking to Shelley Lefko, I added a second question. The second question is, let's talk about what we love about you, Hayden. And then he would say something that he loves about himself, such as, I love myself because I'm really good at science. Or in most cases, he's too modest. He doesn't know what to say. So I will tell him. So I'll say, Hayden, last night it was, Hayden, what I really love about you is that you love creating things. And I think you're such a remarkable creator. The night before it was, Hayden, what I love about you is that you ask the most intelligent questions. Like that question you asked me today about the difference between atoms and molecules. The night before it was, Hayden, what I love about you is that you have like such incredible hair. You're going to be such a good looking chap when you grow up. And what I'm trying to do with this is just make sure that when my son grows up, he knows I really, really, really love him, but he also remembers all these little amazing things about himself, from his beliefs to his looks to his intelligence. And I know a lot of people say, you don't do that to a kid. You're turning your kid into a narcissist. Your kid is going to be so full of himself. But I think
not at all.
You disagree with that.
Totally.
That's the biggest gap, resistance I get when I explain this to other parents. How would you explain this? Like how would you alleviate the idea that such love might turn a child into a narcissist?
Well, a narcissist is somebody who is concerned only with themselves, never see anybody else's point of view. It's actually a 7-year-old who never grows up.
Right.
It's, as I said earlier, it's somebody who's egocentric, who focuses only on themselves, their point of view, can't see any other points of view, thinks only of them, which is natural and normal between the age of 2 and 7. But when you never grow out of that stage, it becomes a problem way of living later on. That's totally different than having a strong sense of self-worth, having a good sense that I am a worthwhile person. I'm good enough. I'm okay the way I am. So you can still, in fact, I would contend that you can be better friends and have better relationships if you know you're okay to begin with. Because one of the things that doesn't work in most relationships and keeps most relationships from working is that we think there's something missing from ourselves that we hope to get from the other person. So if the other person thinks I'm okay, then I'm going to be okay. So we hope we want a feeling of self-worth or self-esteem from somebody else because we don't think we have it. So basically what we need to do is to go into a relationship taking our sense of okayness with us and contributing it to the relationship rather than trying to get our sense of okayness from the relationship. So there's a big difference between, I wrote a post not too long ago on bragging. Bragging is not narcissism. I mean, bragging is narcissism. It's not self-esteem. When you feel you're good enough the way you are and you don't need anybody else's approval, you just are okay, you don't need to tell anybody. Right. You just are. It's when you think you're not good enough that you're trying to convince yourself that you are, and now I'm trying to convince you. So look how much money I made, and look how many people on my mailing list, and look what I did. So if you think I'm important and good enough, now I'll feel better. But if I think I'm okay the way I am, I don't need to tell you. I don't really care what you think. I mean, I'd like you to like me, but if you don't, you don't. If you do, you do, because I know that I'm fine the way I am.
Right.
So narcissism is when you don't think you're okay the way you are, and you try to keep convincing yourself and having other people help convince you.
And here's what I think is true. So many people forget to praise, to appreciate, to reward, to tell their kids or their loved ones how much they love them, especially with children, because we have this idea that if we tell someone too often how amazing they are, they become lazy, or they become self-satisfied, or they develop a unhealthy ego, or they become a narcissist, or they become a brag. And all of this seems irrational. In fact, I believe hurt people hurt. The people who are out there, the divas, the people who are putting others down, they're doing it because inside they are hurting. The greatest thing we can do for our kids is to tell them how amazing they are.
Agree totally. There's just one subtle thing that's very important. You don't want to keep praising results. You want to praise more the process. Because if it's results, then people become do machines. What makes me good enough is what I accomplish, what I do, and you keep working and working and working to prove yourself to keep doing. So, I mean, I'm really, really proud of how hard you worked at that, of the fact that when it got difficult, you didn't stop. So you're basically acknowledging qualities of somebody, the way they are, which is very different than, hey, boy, you got an A. That's great. So now I get praise when I get an A. I don't get praise when I get a B. So what makes me worthwhile is getting A's.
I see what you mean.
I now have to, and I get the only way to get praise is to achieve a result. Daddy will only love me when I do what he wants me to do. So if you say, you did what I wanted today, that's great. Well, then I got to do what Daddy wants in order to be okay. So what you want to do is to praise the qualities, the characteristics, that I'm okay the way I am, regardless of how it turns out. It's great. We can celebrate if you get what you want. I'm happy for you that you got it. But you're great whether it turned out or not. I mean, look at the effort you put in. Look at the creativity that went in. Look that you didn't stop at 9:20. You asked for more time, and that was great. And look what he did. He not only made the deal, but at 9:30, in 10 minutes, you didn't have to tell him anymore. He went right to bed by himself. Right. So thank you for keeping your agreements. That was great. So there's so many of those subtle little things.
You're right.
Not just results are fine. You want to celebrate when you get a win, but you also want to celebrate the process along the way.
You're right, and that opens up a whole other dimension of how you can praise a child.
Absolutely.
So, Morty, let's go on to the second bit, which is the Let Go Freedom process, where you said you're going to give them a way to dissolve meaning. Give our audience a way to dissolve meaning.
Okay, this is another whole, it's related, but in a sense, it's very different. What I discovered was, we were talking about beliefs, that most of what we do and much of what we feel comes from our beliefs, which are these generalized statements This is the way reality is. I'm not good enough. That's the way reality is. Life's difficult. That's the way reality is. And it's sort of like the filter through which we view reality. So we go into a relationship through the filter. Women can't be trusted. Relationships don't work. I'm ugly, et cetera, et cetera. That's beliefs. Now, I discovered a few years ago that in addition to those generalized beliefs, we unconsciously and automatically give meaning to virtually everything that happens to us all day long, 40, 50, 60 times a day. So as an example, a friend of yours walks in the room, sees you and doesn't say hello. He's angry at me. That's obvious. Can't you see he's angry? I mean, what else could it possibly mean? Or you asked a friend to do something for you and they don't do it. Obviously, they don't care. If they cared, they'd have done it. Or boss calls you into the office. Oh, I'm in trouble. Obviously, I'm in trouble. Now, the thing about these meanings are they seem like they're true. We become aware of the meaning at the same time we become aware of the event, and it seems like the meaning is in the event. So what causes our upsets is not what happened, but the meaning we've added to what happens. And we're not aware of this. So all day long, we're having upsets and annoyances and anxieties and frustrations and angers, etc., based upon you didn't do what you promised to do. That means you don't care. Not you didn't do it. If you didn't do it, I can just say, did you have a chance to do it? Are you going to do it? If you do it tomorrow, if not, I'll do it. We'll get it done. It'll be fine. But if you don't care about me, now I'm either upset or angry. So it's those meanings we give all day. And then I realized, well, what's stress? Everybody is concerned about stress. There's now evidence that stress is the single biggest factor in virtually all illnesses and ultimately our lifespan. There's a function of stress or lack of stress. But what's stress? Stress is nothing more than having negative feelings all day long. Could you imagine being stressful if you never got annoyed or upset or afraid? It's sort of,
Right.
what would stress be? So I realized this, and then basically, again, to make a long story short, I figured out a way to help people make a distinction. When you first become aware, here's the event, here's the meaning. They seem like one thing. So I figured out a simple process to get people to pull them apart and to say, well, this is in the world, this is an event, but this is a meaning that I unconsciously gave it. This is in my mind. This isn't part of it. This is separate. And when you separate them, similar to what I said about getting rid of beliefs, when you get that you didn't see it in the world, when you see that these are two different things, not one, the meaning dissolves. And since the feeling comes from the meaning, not the event, when the meaning goes away, the feeling goes away.
But
So
how do we get someone to disassociate both?
Well, this is an oversimplification, but this is still the answer. Is to get that the meaning is not part of the event. If you can think of something that happened in your life today, recently in the last day or so, where something happened and it upset you in some way. It upset you, it annoyed you, it frustrated you, it made you a little angry, it made you a little anxious. I can demonstrate it with you. It takes about 3 minutes. Can you just think of any event that produced any kind of a negative feeling in the last day or two?
Okay, so let's say I was supposed to meet someone in a particular cafe. Okay.
Got it.
And I showed up late, or they showed up late, and the other person, and these are two people who maybe don't know each other so well. So the other person simply assumed that that they were being disrespected.
Well, no, I want to know I want to know you. I want to work on you.
Okay.
So basically, you
okay.
had
So let's say
you had a meeting with somebody. They didn't show up on time.
Right.
And the meaning you gave it is they're disrespecting me. They don't care about me.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay. And how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel that this person isn't someone that I want to do business with, that this person isn't someone I want to associate with, because they don't have a healthy respect.
What's the feeling? Is the feeling annoyance, anger?
It's annoyance. Yeah.
Okay, good. So basically, it seems like him not showing up made you annoyed, right?
Right.
Good. I contend that him not showing up didn't make you feel anything. It's the meaning you gave it. I'm being disrespected.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two simple ways to dissolve that meaning. One of them is, imagine 10 people different ages, different cultures, different points of view, different everything, being there and seeing the same event. So they would see you sitting there. They would see that you're expecting somebody, looking at your watch, and they would see that the other person doesn't show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would they all see he's disrespecting me?
No.
No. Well, is it there or isn't it?
Right. Different cultures would
There's
probably
something in the
perceive it
world.
in
There's
different
something
ways.
in
Yeah.
it out that everybody, that could be a 7-year-old would say, I see him sitting there alone. And you could take somebody from Japan and I can see him sitting there alone. And you could take a Republican and a Democrat, I can see him sitting there alone. But how many people would see he disrespected it? A couple of them might. Most of them would say he probably is going to be there in 5 minutes, or maybe his watch is wrong, or maybe he got held up in traffic, or maybe he forgot the appointment, or there could be 50 reasons why, other than the thing you think is the truth.
Right.
So as soon as you get that, I didn't see that. Nobody would see that. That's in my mind. I made it up. Now, you're not doing it. You're pretending. But if you really did it and you really got that, and you got that the meaning is not the truth, it's not out there in the world, it's in your mind, the annoyance would go away.
I see. And I realized from running an office of about 200 people that this simple idea could could really dramatically help reduce drama in any work environment. Because in work environments, people add meaning to things so often, all the time. All the time.
I just got a note from somebody in one of the courses where I teach people how to do it, and he's an emergency room doctor.
Mm-hmm.
He has 12-hour shifts. So if you can just imagine an emergency room, somebody comes in with a gunshot wound, and somebody else had a heart attack, and somebody else fell off a ladder, and somebody else has a broken arm, and whatever, all day long. And basically his note said is, since I learned how to stop giving meaning, I feel no stress at all during my 12 hours. None whatsoever. There's just one thing to deal with after another, and he either does or he doesn't. He's either successful or he's not, and he works as fast as he can. But whatever happens, it has no meaning. It's just, here's my job, and I got to do the best I can to help fix these people up.
Incredible.
So there's no stress. I agree with you totally about the idea of an office, that all the disagreements, all the frustrations, all the confusions, all the problems that I would say 95% of the problems that happen in an office come from somebody reacting to what they think happened, when really it's not what happened, but the meaning they gave what happened.
I see that. So I can see a huge application for this simple idea in just workspaces and stress, because everyone I know is stressed out about something that's happening at work.
Yes.
And very often when I talk to people whom I work with or friends who run other companies, the stress is always so-and-so disrespected me. My boss did this, which means this. It's really fascinating. And this simple idea of breaking apart the event and the meaning could have such huge applications. So really quick before we wrap up, if you could give a message to people who are at work, people who are working in any type of organization or company, around how to use the idea of disassociating event and meaning to remove stress, what would that be? What would that process, that message, that idea be?
Well, it's essentially what I just walked you through, but let me make the steps clear. You have a negative feeling of any kind. There's always some event that has just preceded it. So what just happened? So you're annoyed, somebody didn't show up at a meeting. You're annoyed, somebody was supposed to call you back and they didn't call you back. You're scared, you're about to start something you've never done before. So there's some emotion. And you then say, what's the event that preceded? And you find that. And then you ask yourself, what meaning did I give it? What did I say this event mean? You got a project? Oh, I'm going to fail. He didn't call me back. He disrespected me. I didn't get what I wanted when, something was supposed to be on my desk this morning when I showed up, wasn't there. Can't count on people. Can't trust them. So there's something like that. Once you've got that, you now have an event and a meaning that seem to be together. There's two ways to pull them apart. One of them is to imagine 10 different people looking at the same event that you're describing and ask, would they all see what happened to me? The answer is, yeah, I think they would all see what happened to me. Would they all see the meaning? And you suddenly realize most of them wouldn't see the meaning. Well, you just said that meaning, that's what it means. if the event inherently means it, then everybody would see the meaning. But you're saying they would all see something happening, but hardly anybody would see the meaning. So where's the meaning? Out there or in your mind? And you realize it's in your mind. The other technique is similar to the one you do with beliefs. The meaning you gave it, the one example you just gave a moment ago, you're waiting for somebody, they don't show up. Could it mean that they disrespect me? It's one possible meaning. What else could it mean? As I just said, is they're on their way, they got stuck in traffic. They forgot about the appointment. They're really sorry, and they'll go out of their way to make it up to you next time. Their watch is broken. I mean, there's 20 possible meanings. So can you see that the meaning you gave, this not showing up means he is disrespecting me? No, it doesn't mean that. It just means he didn't show up, and I have no idea why he didn't show up. There's 10 possible reasons.
I see.
And once you come up with the 10 possible reasons, again, you've pulled them apart. And since, again, the point, to make this point, sorry. The feeling comes from what you think is true. As soon as you realize it's something in my mind that's not true, I made it up, it's not going to produce an emotion anymore. A meaningless event will never produce an emotion. It's only the meaning you add to it. So as soon as you get that the meaning is not part of the event and it goes away, it's just something I made up in my mind, never in the world, and all you got's an event, the feeling goes away. So those are the two steps. And if you'd like a little help with that, which that's all you need to do, and you can do it. But if you'd like a little bit of help, I created a free, there's no charge, you just go use it. It's a web-based app. You just go to your website, and just pull up your browser, your Firefox or Safari or whatever, or Chrome, and go to mortylefko.com, mortylefkoe.com/app for the app. It's someday, what I plan to do in the next few months, if not sooner, is turn it into a smartphone app so that people can carry it with them. And any time at all, during the day or night, they notice the negative feeling, they pull it out. 3 minutes is the most it's ever taken anybody. That's all it's going to take you.
Beautiful. I know all of us are going to enjoy checking that out. mortylefko.com/app. But I love what you just said. That's such an elegant process. Ask yourself, based on if 10 people from different cultures and nationalities were watching this, would they take away the same meaning? That's one. Or two, ask yourself, what else could this mean? Disassociate the meaning from the event and poof, make the stress disappear. It's a powerful idea.
Yes, it is.
And I know even in the most extreme circumstances, it works. I remember reading an interview with someone who worked with Steve Jobs. Now, Steve Jobs was an incredible man, but he had the habit of yelling and tossing tantrums. And in the books and the biographies of him, sometimes he's described in a negative way because of that. For example, there's one book called, I have it on my bookshelf, it's called Icon. And it says that Steve Jobs was basically an asshole. But I remember reading an interview about a lady who worked for him. And the interviewer asked the lady, now, how did you feel when Steve Jobs would, look at your work and go, well, this is shit. And she goes, I never felt bad. In fact, I felt really excited because I knew, I never added meaning to that. I knew that when Steve Jobs said, this is shit, that was just the way he spoke. Most people would say, this could be better. But Steve simply used the words, this is shit. But I knew his code. It simply meant, I think you're amazing. I think you're incredible. I think you can do better. Let's aim for something even better because we're freaking Apple. And because she took that meaning away from the phrase, this is shit, she never got upset about anything Steve Jobs said. And she said working with Steve was an incredible experience. I absolutely loved it. And I believe that's why even for so many great people, you see people who put them down and people who absolutely revere them. It's the meaning. It's not them per se.
That's a brilliant example of how somebody can say something like this is shit. And most people would give that the meaning that's rude, that's inappropriate, etc. And that's true. I mean, but it is rude. It is inappropriate. I mean, that's a fact. And somebody else looks at the same event and says, no, it's not a fact to me. I actually think that he's just encouraging me to be better because he knows I can be better. And that's just the way he talks. But can you get that the same event had no meaning, even though 95% of the world would say that event means it's inappropriate, means it's not the right way to talk to people, means he's wrong. But no, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean anything. And when you get rid of that, this woman didn't feel put down or didn't feel annoyed or didn't feel angry. She felt inspired. Well, he thinks he didn't fire me. So he obviously thinks I can do better. If he thought I couldn't do it, that this was the only work I could do, he'd get rid of me. So if
Right.
he says this is shit, go back to work, he knows I can do better. So I'm going to go back and do better.
Right. So,
Brilliant example.
So
Brilliant.
Thank you, Marty. This has been an incredible call. I learned so much from this. I'm going to take snippets of this call and actually show it on our in our office to 200 people, because I'm beginning to realize that so much unnecessary work happens in an office because someone is hurt or someone has taken meaning from the actions of a manager or a supervisor. And it happens all the time in every organization. So thank you for that revelation. These are some powerful models and systems that we've learned from you today. Again, for everyone listening, this is Morty Lefko. His wife is Shelley Lefko. Look into their work. You can visit mortylefko.com/app for Morty's app on disassociating meaning from events. And look into this couple. They are amazing. They've had a profound impact on my life. And I know they will on you too.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It's a great conversation. It wasn't just an interview. It was a conversation. You gave a lot of examples of your own, and questions were great. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciated the conversation.
Thanks. Thank you, Marty.